redemption draws on. Lord, help us to lift our eyes above the headlines, above the panic, and gaze at you with trust and expectation. You told us through the psalmist in Psalm 119:50, this is my comfort, my affliction, for your word. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Victory Life Podcast. 90 seconds, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the Victory Life Podcast. Welcome YouTube. Welcome Facebook. Welcome Instagram. "30 seconds. Thank you guys for joining. "20 seconds. Welcome to the Victory Life Podcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Victory Life Podcast. I'm your host, Hannah Marie. Thank you guys for joining. Welcome YouTube, welcome Facebook, and welcome Instagram. Actually, even welcome TikTok tonight. Hello, TikTok. TikTok coming in strong tonight, everybody. Guys, I wanted to talk to you guys tonight, and it's been so incredibly long. But can I just say how excited I am that we've leveled up the podcast game? Can I just talk about that real quick? Yeah. I've got my special guest with me, David. Welcome, David, everybody.
Hey, hello.
So, guys, David got an inside scoop into all of my new technology. So I've done a really nice job of getting super fancy with my Instagram people because, y'all, Instagram was able to get the music for the first time in 2 years. So they have completely leveled up. For those of you guys who are trying to get a hold of the music, you guys have a couple of different options. You can head on over to Instagram, follow me, Montana Cash, Cache, or you can head on over to the YouTube page, Victory Life Podcast 7603. Of course, if you guys are on TikTok, you guys get to hang on for the first hour, and then you guys are going to get cut off real quick. So wanted to give y'all the heads up. If you guys want to get the full stream with all of the music, I'm going to need you guys to hop on over to Instagram Live, Montana Cash, MONTANACACHE, Cash, Cache, or I need you to hop on over to YouTube, Victory Life Podcast 7603. You can get the full stream there. You'll be able to watch it live there. Of course, we want you guys to like, share, subscribe, all the good things. But guys, I'm super excited because today we're going to be talking to David, a very good dear friend of mine. Welcome, David.
Hey.
And today, for the first time in a long time, we've gone live, which is like a sheer miracle. For those of you guys who know me in my real world personal life, I'm a busy gal. But on top of that, you know, the idea of doing a podcast and like not writing one thing down is extremely adventurous. Would you not say, David?
Yeah.
So I brought David on the podcast. And for those of you guys who've done anything podcasting related, you probably know that there's a lot of like scripting that actually goes into podcasting. People are writing things down. They're taking notes. They've got cue cards. Like typically there's a lot going on when you do a podcast. But for today's podcast, guys, we are totally unscripted. So anything can happen today. I actually have no clue what's going to happen. So that's kind of the exciting part. I have no clue what we're going to talk about, what we're going to share, what we're going to say, how it's going to go. But, you know, I give all of my apologies in advance to the world for whatever happens on this live. So it should be interesting. So happy Sunday, everyone out here. And I mean, it's probably Monday morning someplace for someone, right?
Yes.
Well, it's Sunday in Atlanta, so we're broadcasting live in Atlanta. So again, welcome YouTube, welcome Facebook, welcome Instagram, welcome TikTok, welcome David. And y'all, welcome to my new equipment. I'm so excited. I don't know if you guys know, I'm the girl who doesn't know how to use the remote control. I mean, I don't know if you know me like that. I don't know how to use my remote control. And literally, when I bought podcast equipment 2 years ago, 2 and some change years ago, I literally bought things in faith, asking God to help me know how to use the equipment. I had no clue how to use equipment, how to put the things together, everything from what wire, how, DSLR cameras, no clue. Like today, the lighting was just a little bit dark. I had to go Google how to fix the lighting on my camera because ever since I moved back from Dallas to Atlanta, my settings are a little bit wonky, and so I'm still kind of like readjusting everything. So for those of you guys who are adventurous in the world of podcasting, hit me up. Probably I can help you do something. Hopefully we don't make too many mistakes out there, but I think, just in case you guys didn't know, I think I've learned a lot. I'm not perfect. I still make boo-boos, but I feel like I've learned a lot. So we've got a lot of equipment. We've got new mics. I got new little mics. I don't have any new big mics. Actually, I do. I have one new big mic. David's mic is a brand new mic. I've got all these cute little lavalier mics. I've got a new dongle for my cell phone to bring music into Instagram. So we're having a blast. And TikTok, I would have brought y'all into the music, but I'm trying not to get banned on TikTok. You know how it is. They don't like for us to use music that's outside of their world. So, we have to follow their rules. But anywho, so unscripted, David, I mean, come on. So we've talked about I mean, David's been on the program before, but I know a lot of you guys are new listeners. So, David, I mean, we have an interesting story, like just in our meeting. I think we met maybe, I don't know, 7 years ago-ish.
Yeah, something like that.
7 years, you still deal with me? Let's go, let's go. I mean, I will let you tell the story, like tell whatever you'd like to share about how we met, etc. And I'll let you go for that. I don't think there's anything too damaging in that story, but we'll see.
The only thing I remember is that you thought I was gay.
Oh my gosh, that's not true. That's not true.
Yes.
Well, I gotta give context to that. So David feels like I thought he was gay, but that's not true. I mean, I do have a lot of gay friends, but the whole idea is I didn't think you were gay. So for those of you guys who don't know, I mean, I love doing my Bible studies. I love Jesus. I love my ministry. But David didn't meet me in that way. He met me out dancing. Yeah. So I met David at a Latin nightclub, which is where I frequent. And so I found David. He was sitting at a table all by himself. And basically, I owned that club, basically, in so many words. Like, I was the regular customer. I would be there every Friday night, and I knew everyone there. And so David was a new kid on the block. I was like, who is this new kid on the block? Why is he sitting by himself? And is he okay? I went over there really to just check on you. I mean, I wasn't employed by the club, not technically. However, I kind of felt like I was employed by the club. So I was actually kind of just checking in, kind of like an employee. And I was curious about you sitting by yourself. So what made you think I thought that you were gay?
That was a fun night.
That was fun.
Because, I was traveling a lot at that moment. And I think that was my only weekend for that month. Like my free weekend. So I tried to go out, but so I saw that this was like the best place for like salsa, and so I go out and I didn't notice that the place was empty. So I got a drink and then I noticed the place is empty. So I had to stay there.
So you were committed to the situation.
Yeah,
that happens sometimes. Like have you ever found yourself sometimes like committed to a situation when you're actually on a date? Like it's not really going the way you hope for it to go, but then you're like, I'm in this, I'm committed to it. You ever felt like that before?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, me too. that sucks.
But I think that's a good thing, because I think every time you want something, you always want to try it the best you can.
It's true.
I like, for example, that it's like a very small thing, but like you say, like you're committed to this and you wanted to go out, and so I think for that night was like, all right, so it's not the best day ever, but let's find a way to enjoy this day, right? And
it's pretty awesome.
Turns out I met you, so it was the best day ever.
So I actually I have a lot of respect for the fact that you're like so adventurous that you would actually go out to a nightclub alone, because that's kind of a big deal to a lot of people, like venturing out to do anything alone. I mean, so often people need like 2-3 people, or at least one person with them to go do something major. And like, I can tell you had not been to that place before, because I go to that place every single weekend, right? Yeah. So you did not go to that place before. So I was already like, okay, he's a new person and he's by himself. How weird is that? But like on the other end, I have to say, how brave is that? How brave is that you would be willing to give a new place a chance, although you're alone, venturing off, and not like, oh, I'm too scared, I'm going to sit at home and like waste my life away. Let me like get out and see something new, do something new, have a new experience. So I thought that was interesting. And like, I think the context is I was just letting you know, because you were there on Friday night. I think we were talking about the fact that you thought the club was pretty interesting, that you may be wanting to come back again on a different night.
Yeah, the following, yeah.
Yeah, you were thinking about, it was Friday night we met, and you were thinking of showing back up the next night on Saturday night.
Yeah, because I thought like Saturday was going to be like better, because everybody's out on Saturday.
Exactly, except Saturday night was gay night. So the context behind the reason why you're saying I thought you were gay, which I never thought you were gay. I was only letting you know that the way the club was run was on Saturday night. I mean, it was fine if you wanted to go there on Saturday night, but I just wanted you to know so you wouldn't be surprised if someone might have found you interesting on Saturday night. You know, I just wanted you to be aware of it, if that makes any sense. So just giving you fair warning. So are you glad I gave you the warning, or in the future, should I just let the next person just not know?
I'm glad.
Okay, good. Well, cool. So let's talk about what we were just saying. So context around like going out, like sometimes we end up out someplace and then we feel like we're like committed to that situation.
Yes.
And that can kind of be awkward. And then I think the idea is like, how much time do you give a situation before you're like, I abort this mission. You know, I abort this mission. I'm out of here. I got to get out of here. Like what's the reasonable amount of time if something is not going well? Like, how do you manage a date if you're like on a date, it's clearly not going that well, you know, and you're like 15 minutes in and you're like, this is not working. Like how do you just exit out in the middle of like the dinner? Like how do you manage if it's not going well and you're 15 minutes into your date? Because I have a real interesting story about that.
Well, for me, that's a very hard question because I don't like to lose and I don't like to finish or close things. So I think that every time you're doing something is because you wanted to do it. So
Interesting.
So if it's not going well, you gotta find a way to make it work.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's but your question on when do you give up?
First 15 minutes, it's not going well. When do you give up? Do you stick the entire date through? Do you do that?
And
wow.
But sometimes you gotta give up.
Okay.
It's so hard for me to give up.
Okay.
So that is a very hard question for me because I go all the way and then after you finish, then you remember stuff and then you don't do it again.
True.
But for that time, you committed to the end.
Well, there's always lessons to be learned. And I will give you a story like long before I met you story. So I went out, and this is back when online dating was somewhat normal. I mean, at one point it was somewhat normal. I think it's pretty difficult now. There are possibilities, but I think it's a little bit more difficult to like find the, you know, needle in the haystack, so to speak. But this is probably, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. I went on a date and within 15 minutes, I was like, this is not going right. It was bad. And when I say it was bad, it was like bad. And you're probably thinking like, what could go that bad in 15 minutes? Well, number one, I showed up at the date and then the gentleman already like had a drink and was drinking his drink. And I was like, kind of like a little thrown off by it because I thought it was like, I don't know. I think I went to the restroom and came back and he ordered his own little drink and was drinking it. And I thought it was just kind of rude. I was like, he's kind of rude, but whatever. So that wasn't a big deal. What was a big deal was he kept using foul language the entire date. And I didn't even know him. I didn't even know his last name. And like, it was within 15 minutes I realized this is never going to work. And it was like one of the first times I ever said to myself, I need to bail in the middle of this date. I've got to figure out how to get out of this thing like now. I didn't want to eat food. I didn't want to have a full converse. I wanted to get out of there right instantly. So, but I couldn't it was just kind of weird. Like it was the first time I needed to exit. So like you said, like you feel real committed to it. And I kind of was feeling somewhat stuck, but somewhat, I don't know. I was like, well, how do I get out of this? And I didn't have like a game plan of like what girlfriend could call me and what emergency I could have. I didn't have any of that going. So I was kind of like, well, okay, well, I'm going to at least have a good story for my girlfriends when this is all done. So, this gentleman had a curse word to say every few phrases or sentences. I want you to guess how many times he cursed on my date, which was like basically one drink. One drink, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it was like within a 2 hour span of time that passed. How many curse words do you think he shared?
I don't know, like 100.
Not 100, not 100. Well, I mean, this is what happened. Like, the reason how I know is because I'm on the date and I'm completely checked out. This guy is talking about everything from like 9/11 conspiracy theories to just on and on and on, all these expletives. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to make the best of this for the moment. So I take my two hands and I decide to like sit on my two hands, and I decided to count the curse words with my fingers while I'm sitting on my hands because I wanted to be able to have an accurate count for when I left this date so I could go home and tell my girlfriends, this is the worst date I've ever had. He cursed something number of times. So I had my hands, both of my palms under my dress, and I'm just sitting like this, and I'm counting like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, under my legs, and I counted. So of course I went through a set of hands, then I went through another set of hands. Do you guys know how many times this guy cursed on one date within 2 hours?
How many?
72 or 73 times.
Almost 100.
Do you know how difficult that should be? 72 or 73 times. 72 or 73 times. And meanwhile, can you imagine I'm sitting there with my hands under my legs, just doing this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 the whole time. So I came out with, I think it was 72 or 73. Like, it's like 10, 15 years ago now. So, you know, my memory fails me, but
that's a good thing.
But yeah. I exited the situation after that.
Yeah, you gotta learn when to exit.
Do you think that was appropriate for me to like go ahead and leave? I mean, was it a good idea for me to exit after 72, 73 curse words?
Yeah, now that I'm older, yeah, I think that you should know what you like, what you don't like, what you accept, what you don't accept. And at least you should like say like, hey, you know what, like this is not going well because I don't like this and this and this.
Wow, that's an interesting perspective to have, because I find that nowadays I don't think people are very open about sharing like full disclosure. Yeah. Hey, I'm no longer interested, because I don't think that often happens. I think more often than not, people are getting ghosted. If it's not what someone wants, they just disappear. They vanish, never to be found again. I think that's what happens.
I think we don't even know what we like, and we don't even know what we don't like. So we feel something is not going well, but we don't even know how to explain it to ourselves. So when you don't know how to explain it to yourself, then how can you tell someone else? But the problem with that is that you gotta be, you gotta know yourself, and you gotta have your limits, know what your limits are, and I think it's healthy to express what your limits are. So like in that scenario, I think it would be healthier to say like, hey, you know what, like I don't like curse words. Mm-hmm. So please
refrain from such.
Yeah, exactly. and then you're gonna have fun, or I mean, if he likes it or not, or at least you can get out of there.
Wow.
But I think like right now we don't even know ourselves, and that's the problem.
Wow. Well, I have a different perspective. I feel like I know myself really, really well now. I feel like that makes it really hard for me, because as I know myself really well, now I'm thinking about, do the attributes of the other person seem like they would be a match, not for 6 months or 1 year, because I kind of feel like anybody can tolerate, little nuances for 6 months or so. But when we're talking about a lifetime, when you want to partner with someone for, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, I think that that's a different level of compatibility potentially. And I think there's a difficulty in me knowing myself fully now and knowing what things bug me a whole lot. I don't think I can go very far with someone if things are bugging me super, super bad. Like, here's an example. There was one gentleman I didn't really have great conversation with. And so I kind of felt like I can't see myself growing old with someone who I can't have very involved conversations with, where I can just kind of talk about different things that are, current events and, just different things like philosophy, current events, life experiences. I felt like if we don't have great conversation, this is probably going to fall really short, really fast, because I'm probably going to feel bored.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think there, like, even if you don't know yourself fully, is there something like, for me, it might be good conversation. Good conversation, if it's not there, we're not going to make it. I mean, I can just scratch it off the list right there. We're not going to make it because, have you met me? I talk a little bit.
No, but I think that it should be like that. I mean, and there's a lot of stuff. So see, that's the problem of commitment. That commitment is not a great thing sometimes because you commit to something that you don't like because you're there. So knowing yourself and knowing that, for example, this is like you didn't have a good conversation and that's something big for you. So it's okay to bail.
Okay.
It's okay to say no. It's okay to go to the next person.
I bailed. I bailed quickly. It didn't work out.
But that's fine.
I didn't say why, though. I didn't offer we're not working out because. I didn't give the full description of why. I mean, should I have said that, I really need someone who gives me more of a cerebral connection and I'm just missing that right now? I mean, should I have said that?
For me, yeah, because I want to know. I think it's very hard when you don't have answers. So like ghosting people, yeah, it works for you because you don't wanna deal with that. Like when you are the one that's ghosting people. But for the one that got ghosted, it's like, what happened? Like, is it a problem with you? Is it a problem with me? Do I have to improve? Because I think every time somebody tells you like, hey, like, you know what, like this is not working because of that. So this is an area of opportunity. Like now I can ask myself, is that something I can improve? Is that something I want to improve? Is that something that I made a mistake? Or is just like we don't connect and okay, so next person. But I think every time you have a relationship, I think, or you're dating or whatever, I think you always learn something.
That's true. That's true. That's one good thing that I feel like I've gained from dating quite a bit is even if the relationship doesn't work out, I found I would say the last decade, I've started to do more self-reflection and I've started to think, well, what good can I take from that person having only met with them 2-3 times? What good can I take from that person that I might want to apply to my life? And I do actually try to do that now because, for instance, one gentleman, I met him and his car was oh my gosh, super clean. It was super clean. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't say anything about it, but I was just like, it's super clean. And I was like, you know what? I should start making sure that my car is super clean too, because whatever it was, it left a good impression and it made me comfortable on the date. And it just made me feel very well taken care of. And I felt like, for some reason, I feel that a woman is looking for a man to protect them and set things up nicely, just present things well. stole my heart. Yeah, a little bit, just a little bit. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm not a dog person, but I see that, he's really, really good with his dog. And that was like, I was able to see a little bit about, how he takes care of the things he loves. So that for me that was a check. I mean, that was like a green flag for me. I'm like, oh, you love your dog. I can see you take care of your dog well. You seem to like your car. You take care of your car well. How much more would you do for a woman if you loved her? You probably would really treat her nicely. So it was green check marks in that area. So I took from that, even though I didn't feel like it was gonna be my person, I felt like I should upgrade and do something nice to my car. And so then I enrolled in a monthly car wash program that you can get as unlimited car washes and vacuums and polishings. And it was a little expensive, but it was worth it. And then I had the same kind of fresh and clean car like he had. I had the nice stuff too. So I felt like that's something that I gained from just going out with someone new, that I wouldn't have gained if I didn't look past the romantic thing and really focus on, oh, well, this is someone who's got good attributes, and I would like to borrow from that and implement that in my life.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to therapy. I've been in therapy for 3 years now, 3 or 4 years. And just recently, I learned that because I was dealing with who am I, right? That's a very so for me at that moment that was a very big question because I was trying to understand the meaning of myself in the universe, and then the doctor he was really quick on saying you're the sum of the experiences that you've had.
Oh, wow.
And the ones that you've liked. So just exactly like that. So for example, yeah, you go out with somebody and you like the car, he's very and you do it on your own, on yourself, and that's part of you now. That's not him. And then you like a little bit of what your dad did when you were young, and you apply it to yourself, and you're that. So a lot of small things that you're gathering from all these experiences with people. And now I'm reading a book, and that says that you gotta get out of your mind because then you create a world that doesn't exist. And then you get stressed about problems that don't exist. Mm-hmm. And then, so when you go out and then you experience stuff, then you start creating stuff for your own, and then you start changing, and then you start being someone that you like, that you didn't know that you liked, but you didn't know because you never tried it.
Wow.
So yeah, so going back to when I met you, I loved it because at that time I was traveling, and at that moment that was so hard for me because when you're traveling a lot, I was traveling 90% of the time.
That's hard.
So when I felt home was in a hotel. I tried to stay always in the same chain. So that felt like home. When I was at my actual home, it felt weird. You wake up and then you're like, where am I? And then that's your home. And I'm like, ah. But the good thing about that is that I had to go out by myself. I had to go out to a club or to something to have recreation. And at that moment, I didn't understand that that was good for me because I was experiencing stuff. So now I don't travel anymore because I got tired. But now that I'm realizing who am I, right now I'm all these things that I tried, I'm all these people that I met, and that's good.
How interesting. You know, I don't know. I traveled for a long time too, but I think around the time that I met you, I was really, I was more stationary than I had been. But there was a swath of time that I traveled like you as well. And it took me, I mean, I love travel from the perspective of I loved that job. I loved that job. So, you know, if you're going to be traveling all the time and missing, you know, experiences with your friends back home and all the good things that are going on and kind of getting left behind with that, you have to love something about it, right? It's not just money, right? I loved that job. I was training nurses all over the country. I was good at it too, right? So I loved that job. People loved me. I mean, I made a home out of different places, and I've had birthdays celebrated in other places. And I don't know, it was such a good feeling to be someplace foreign and be recognized for little things like little big things like your birthday, and just, oh, I brought you a salad just because from home. And honestly, it was just such a joy to have people that you had that small town feeling, even though you were in the middle of someplace else and that wasn't technically your home. I got a lot of those experiences when I was gone, but I feel like my personal life suffered really bad back home. I feel like I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of relationships, and I didn't intend to, but I did. I did so much of that. And I look back, and you know how the Bible says you can gain the whole world but lose your soul?
Exactly.
I mean, I wouldn't say that I lost my whole soul, but when I signed up for it, I didn't realize how many years I would lose in that. And I don't think that, I think a woman, well, specifically women, because, you know, women have fertile years and all. I think specifically women have to be very careful about those decisions, because it doesn't appear to be a trade-off when you sign up for it. In your really young youth, it doesn't appear to, it seems just exciting and, oh, I'm going to get paid well. I love this job. People love me. I love them. And there are some wins. But I don't know if we, you know, the Bible says count the cost. I don't know when we do that, if we count the cost and we get so distracted by the money that we're making or the new friendships that we, you know, make, you know, in other places. Because when I reflect back on what I lost, like I had, you know, some solid relationships here, like friendships that I never could really, I could never get those back on track. And then relationships I lost too, I couldn't get those back on track either. And I mean, part of me is like, I can kind of understand that in like all of God's sovereignty, that things, you know, probably mapped out the way they did and everything is okay, right? But on the other hand, I think that I don't know if I would have made all the same decisions if I would have really known that I would have been traveling for so long. I don't know if I would have signed up for it. Like, it took me some time to realize, the day that I realized I wanted to stop traveling so heavily, I literally walked in and I was like, you know what? We're not doing this anymore. I'm going to move on. I'm going to find another job, like ASAP. Like it was like I walked in the door one day and I was just like, I'm good. I'm done with the traveling. It's like, it's the same way it started. I started one day kind of very randomly. And then the day that it ended, I was like, I'm done. I'm done randomly. I'm like, and I did. And I really didn't put a lot of effort into traveling again, because at that point I understood that you can travel some, but when you're, like you said, 90% is a lot. Like when we, like every week for 2 years or so, like that's a lot, you know, it's a lot. So I don't know. I think it depends on your circumstances. I feel like for men, it's a little bit easier to do it because I don't think y'all's biological clocks are ticking as loud as ours. And then for us, you know, when we're giving up the relationships in those moments, and then it takes like another 5 years to find somebody, you know, your eggs are like.
But that's why you gotta know yourself, and part of knowing yourself is you gotta know what the goal is.
Yeah.
So right now I'm learning that you should look at a bigger goal. And then from that bigger goal, then you make decisions. Because yeah, like I said, like for me, it's so hard to bail on something because you're committed to that, and you wanted to do that because of something. So now you gotta make it work. But how much time are you gonna spend on that? Are you gonna spend 1, 2, 5 years, 1 month, 15 minutes? So so exactly. So if you're looking at the bigger goal, and then turns out that if you spend 2 years with this guy, he's not gonna be worth it. You gotta bail. And it's so hard to bail, but you have to do it. But you cannot do it if you're not looking at the bigger goal.
That's true.
And sometimes it's not even that, because so I was looking at a story. It was this guy that he wanted to hear the mermaids, and the legend says that the mermaids are so beautiful, and they sing so beautiful that you get in love, and then they kill you. So it was so yeah, the pirates or people that was on the sea, it was a big legend, you know. So this guy was like, hey, you know what? I wanna see them, but I don't wanna die. So for him, he was like, he talked to his people on his boat, and he told them like, hey, you're gonna tie me, and everybody is gonna wear like, how do you call them, to not hear, like earplugs.
Yes.
So I'm gonna listen to them, to the mermaids, and if I get in love and I tell you to untie me, like, don't do it, even if I go like crazy, because the legend said that they are so beautiful that you go crazy for them. So he was like, and after looking at the mermaids, there was something on the other side. And he was like, I want to go to the other side. So he did it. But it was so painful because he wanted, so he listened to the mermaids. It was amazing. He wanted to go with them. So it was so painful for him. But he had a big goal. He had to understand. So the interesting part of this is that you have to know your weakness. You have to know your limits. And you have to know that you cannot control your weakness. And you have to know that you cannot control your limits. Well, sometimes you cannot control your limits. But if you know yourself, if you know your limits, if you know what you like, what you don't like, then you can get help. You can ask a friend, hey, you know what, like, I know I'm weak on here, so help me out. So
interesting. I mean, I can take a lot from that story. I can tell you that I've pushed a lot of boundaries at one point in my life and kind of went a little too far to the edge for quite a long time. And I think that I'm far more cautious now because of what you said, some of what you said, just knowing that I know myself in different seasons. I know when I'm in the season where I'm feeling in some kind of way quite weak. I just know myself in that respect. And when I'm feeling like that, I kind of know what I'm capable of at my worst. And it's a good thing that I know that now, because at one point I didn't know what I was capable of at my worst. Now I know what I'm capable of. So I'm like, okay, if I know I'm capable of that at my worst, then I know to put like a little barrier up against that and not go too far into those things. But what I find that's interesting, and I'm actually gonna cite other people who I was close to at some point, other Christian people who I was close to. And we haven't always had that same perspective, even though each of us were Christian. So I kind of think that's kind of interesting, is like understanding our own personal boundaries. And I know like the Bible says, don't be unequally yoked, right? So, and I would say in dating Christians, I found that I felt many occasions, I've still felt unequally yoked, even with Christians. And I felt as unequally yoked with Christians as I have with people who are not Christian at all and, don't even believe in God sometimes. So I don't know, like, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the whole unequally yoked factor? Do you think, I'm being transparent, I don't recommend it for other people, so I'm not your pastor. I went to seminary school, I'm not your pastor. I'm just living life. I'm a regular old girl living her life and making mistakes and learning from them. But I don't always date a Christian because I've not always found like the compatibility with another Christian. I just haven't. I haven't found like exactly the same values or exactly the same approaches to handling things or even handling boundaries. And it depends on who I'm speaking to. I have like my inner circle of people who I really love and trust. And in my inner circle, like I've even amongst my inner circle, everyone doesn't think the same. Some of my friends who are believers in Jesus in my inner circle, some of them will be like, yeah, date whoever you want. Like, as long as you can like manage it and you feel okay, date whoever you want. And then others are saying like, no, only date this type of person. That's it. So I don't know. And I'm, like I said, guilty, guilty. I mean, the Bible says don't be unequally yoked. But just being transparent, like I can tell you, I've been out with Christians and I've felt unequally yoked to the extent that I had to separate because we just don't see eye to eye on the same values within our faith. We just don't. Like maybe we both know what God wants and then we don't feel the same way in terms of how we personally approach those things. So I'm curious, like, do you think it's wrong? Because I get a different answer from every Christian. I'm just curious about you. Do you think it's wrong if I date people who do not believe in Jesus? Do you think it's wrong? And how much trouble am I going to be in?
I'm Christian, but I think the problem with religion, or at least Christians, that's what I know more, is that you gotta separate what is spiritual and what is human.
Oof.
And we don't. So problem is every time you go to somebody that's Christian, they tell you like, oh yeah, God is God's plan, or God will fix it, or God. But something is spiritual, something is from God, but something else is human. So your feelings are human, your goals are human, the things that you don't like are human. So you can go with someone from church, and not because you have the same religion, you're gonna like the same stuff. So, and you can go out with people that is not from church, and not because you don't have the same religion, that doesn't mean you don't have the same discipline. So
put that on a t-shirt.
So I think it's about the bigger goal. So how do you like your home? Do you want a loud home? Mm-hmm. Do you want, because like for example I'm Latin, so Latin people they want to party, they want loud music at home, they want the TV so loud, they want noise, they like the noise, they like the party, I don't like that, and I'm from Latin America. So it's not about like where you're coming from. It's not about your religion. It's not about. It's about what you like, and if you're gonna match with that people.
That's a good point. That's definitely a good point. And that's what I'm exploring. I would say I'm exploring is like understanding the approach to singleness when you are, actually at the same time in parallel with being a Christian and being a follower of Jesus and like what the Bible says as much as possible, right? Not being perfect, but trying to follow that and also navigate singleness, I think it's interesting.
I think it's coming to the fact that we're humans and we gotta own it and we gotta understand it and we gotta know that our humanity is good and it comes from God. I think our humanity comes from I don't remember the exact word, but it's like the freedom of choice. So the fact that God gave us the freedom of choice, that made us human. Because by having the freedom of choice, you have the opportunity to go towards God or not. And then that is your first decision. And then after that, it's so many decisions that you go into like a neural net. So, and that is fun and that is good. But to go towards God, you gotta understand your humanity. So you gotta put boundaries. You gotta understand what you like, what is your weakness. So when you understand that, then you can go towards a better life, and then you can go to explain something. Because the problem with Christians, I think right now what I've seen is that we don't know how to explain stuff because we don't want to understand stuff. So of course, when you go out and date someone, it might be that we don't match, but we are committed and we want to make this happen because it's God's plan. But God's plan is that you are human and you gotta love your humanity. So you wanna be with someone that you feel like, that you enjoy, that you have a good time with, that you have a plan for the future, a good marriage, have kids, that you know where you wanna raise them in New York, in Atlanta, and, so all that doesn't come from God. That comes from you living here in this world. What is the type of house that you're gonna have? Is it gonna be a big house or small house? That's not religion. So it doesn't matter if for me, it doesn't matter if these people that you're gonna be dating, they're Christian or not, because Christianity and spirituality is one thing. And humanity and the way of living, that's a different thing for me.
There's an immediate impact to the human side of it.
Yes.
And that will make you run.
Exactly.
Wow. Speaking of that, first I want to make a quick announcement for my folks on TikTok. I know TikTok is not going to last too much longer. It typically goes out in the first hour. So folks on TikTok, if you guys want to stay on the stream and continue listening, either you need to hop on over to Instagram, Montana, MONTANA CACHE, and you can watch it live on Instagram, or you can move on over to YouTube and you can get the full stream as we continue to go live, because TikTok's going to shut off in just a few minutes, I think. So I want to let you guys know that if you guys are enjoying the stream, be sure to hop on over to Victory Life Podcast 7603 on YouTube, so you can hop on in and you can continue watching the program. And don't forget, for you guys over there on YouTube, don't forget, like, share, subscribe, comment. That's a good idea. It's always a good idea. So running, we were talking about running. My goodness. I mean, so people that are getting married are running from it, is what I've observed. I mean, I'm all giggles, but it's actually a pretty serious thing that the divorce rate is so high. Knowing that the divorce rate is so high, I'm hearing different things from different people. From the gentlemen that I know, just, casually know, a lot of them would say that it's best to just wait longer to get married, wait longer and longer, because of course the divorce rate is so high. And so now we need to be more certain before we get married. And then, I occasionally hear a pastor or two here and there say things about similar, like, oh, wait and wait and wait. Not always, but every now and then I'll hear a pastor say, wait and wait and wait, and be very, very extra certain. But actually, I disagree with that. I totally disagree. So I'm curious to know your thoughts, because I think when it comes, in order to and this is from a perspective of when you get married, everybody wants to stay married. Nobody wants to go through a divorce ever, right? That's kind of messy. But there are some people with the school of thought, in order to make sure you get married and you can stay married, some people think you should wait longer and feel more certain before getting married, which might mean multiple years in a dating scenario, whereas others feel like, get this show on the road. And that's like me, okay? So I personally, I feel that if you're in a reasonably transparent relationship, I think, and if you're a reasonable age, we're not talking about 20-year-old necessarily, who doesn't know themselves and doesn't know anything. But in general, I would say if you've been having open dialogue, and if you've been talking back and forth with someone honestly, I kind of feel like at the 1 year point, I feel like you should know them well enough. If you're talking, when I say talking regularly, I don't mean this is my boyfriend and I see him once a month. I don't mean that. I mean this is the person that I'm seeing. I talk to him every day. I share open and honestly how I feel, what I value, what's important, and I nurture this relationship as if it's going to be forever. I'm talking about that kind of dating for a year versus we just do group things together. We just, go to the movies and watch things quietly together. And as opposed to spending time together that's not quality, where you're not having a meaningful exchange. So I'm talking about the kind of dating where you're literally getting to know the ins and outs of that person, what makes them tick, their difficulties that in their early childhood, whatever childhood trauma they may have had. You're getting to know the bad things and the good things, their hopes and their dreams. You're getting to know all of that, and you're talking each day, and you're seeing each other several times a week. That kind of level dating, where you're both being honest and transparent, and you're not having vulnerability issues, not withholding a bunch. So all those are off the table, but I'm talking about people who are in meaningful relationships, exclusively seeing each other and heavily interacting. I think if you're in that kind of a relationship and a year has passed and you've been interacting on that level of vulnerability, not withholding, not holding things back, not having your own personal difficulties, and you're really functioning as what you feel like is a reasonable norm or your personal best, not when you're in your worst moments, kind of a thing. But I think if you're in your personal best and you're functioning that way and a year has passed, I think after that year, there's very little new information that shows up that's going to shake the foundation or rock your world or change your mind or make you either more excited to be with someone or more apt to leave them. I think once a year has passed and you've been very involved and you've been sharing adequately, seeing each other regularly, I think that after a year, there's you're not going to learn much new. So can you make this decision is really the question. Can you make the decision? And if you're just not certain, I think it's more about maybe you should move on. Maybe you should, maybe you should consider whether you should continue to use your time that way, if your eggs are screaming at you, if you're a lady. I mean, if your eggs aren't screaming at you, do you? But if your eggs are screaming at you, you're in that like little bracket where it's like, where you're not 22 and you're like 36, your eggs might be screaming at you. Get the show on the road. My question is like, do you think that that seems super rushed in that level of circumstance? Or do you think you just have to just really sometimes give it the 5 years and sometimes give it the 10? What do you think?
I think it's up to you. I think it's up to, again, like knowing what you're gonna take and why are you taking this and that? Are you gonna stay in that marriage even if there's like people is unfaithful? Are you gonna stay if you find out that somebody has been lying to you or somebody's? So I think that we don't know people, even if you like know them for like 20 years. There's still stuff. So I think marriage is not when you think you know this guy or this girl because so that's the problem. So because yeah, you know this guy, this girl, and then you think that you know how he's gonna react to whatever thing that happened, or you think that he's never gonna do this, he's never gonna do that, and then turns out he did it, and then that breaks your whole world. So I think marriage. So not marriage. I think you change because of stuff. And so when you're married, are you gonna stay with that person even if he changed? Because my mom died when I was young, and that changed me. I'm different to before that happened. And it took me so many years, I think like 15 years to get over that. And I didn't want to deal with it for so many years. And I was this guy having fun, and I was feeling a lot of pain, but I didn't want to deal with the pain. So I was a different person. And then turns out I said, like, you know what? It's enough. So I'm going to deal with the pain. I'm going to... I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to feel this anymore because it's painful. I'm not dealing with it because I don't want to feel the pain. But turns out every day I'm feeling the pain. So I don't want to feel it anymore. So I did stuff and I changed. And now I'm a different guy to all these different stages in my life. So I think when you get married is from something that you feel, some kind of connection, and the commitment that you are trying to do with yourself, not with that person. Are you going to stay even if he cheats? Are you going to stay even if he lies? Are you going to accept this or that? What is the stuff that you're going to commit to? Again, is commitment. So, and I think that the commitment is to you. It's not to that person. So you can take whatever you want, and it doesn't matter what people in the world says. Because at the end is, do you feel happy? Do you feel that you're living the life that you want? And if that's it, then... But it's always about yourself, not the rest. So, for example, I have a how do you say in English, like step brother and a step sister, and it blew my mind at some point that I went out, and I was very, very young, and I went out, and I came the next day home. So of course everybody was mad at me They were yelling and everything. Um, but the interesting part is, my mom told me that she called like an aunt or my grandma or somebody, and they said that I was like very depressed, and I was like about to commit suicide and something like that. I was like, who said that? I was in a party, I was having fun, it was the best time ever. I'm not. So, but she was super worried. And then she was like, you know what, like, I think you know about your dad and me, like we're having problems and this and that. So I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, that, but okay, so fine. So, and then she tells me like, do you know that you have a step brother? And I was like, yeah, I kind of had an idea of that, but so she was like, do you know that there are problems in our marriage? And I was like, I got no idea of that. You've never shown that. I know I can see that sometimes you're fighting, but I don't know how hard is it. And then she was like, well, we're together mostly because we have you guys, like the kids. If it wasn't for you guys, maybe we wouldn't be together. And I was like, you know what? I wasn't trying to do bad things. I was having the best time of the world. So take me out of that equation. If you want to keep married, stay married. If you want to have a divorce, have a divorce. But that's not on me. You're not going to be together because of me, and you're gonna not be together because of me. You make your decision. So they stayed together and until my mom died, and my dad always remembers her as the best thing ever. So yeah, that's the so my mom was super committed. So she knew that my dad had a different family, and she was like, you know what, like, be a good dad in there, but just make sure that this is your primary home. Just make sure you are providing properly to this home. Don't bring me problems. And then the rest is your humanity. You did that, that's your mistake, that's your problem. It's not my problem. So don't bring problems to my home.
Wow.
So it's about your commitment to your marriage.
Honestly, I think that is probably one of the most difficult things that a wife could ever go through. I think it's probably because it's beyond the incident. It's one of those things that continues to go on because there is another child involved, right? It's not that something happened and then you move on and you put it behind you. It's that it's still going on. And so you're having to deal with it regularly. That's super duper tough.
Yeah, and I think you gotta understand again that we are humans and we change. And are you willing to stay with someone after all these many changes? And I think the most important thing is communication, because and understand that people is gonna change.
Yeah.
And understand that if you communicate very well, then you're gonna see all these changes, and then you're gonna say, okay, so I accept this and I don't accept that. I think, yeah, that's the best thing is communication. And I think for dating and for marrying someone, I think the best is to have friendship. If you don't have friendship, then the rest is not gonna be a good thing.
Wow. It's as simple as friendship then to you.
Yeah. If you're good friends, then you can talk about anything. And that, yeah, that's the thing. I think even in church, there is problem of talking about stuff because this is a temptation because I don't understand what the Bible is trying to say about this. So maybe I'm gonna pretend that doesn't happen. I'm gonna pretend there is like all marriages are the best. I'm gonna pretend there is no temptation in this world, and that is not good. You always have to be clear. You always have to communicate, and I understand that there are mistakes, and understand that everything is going to change. Nothing is going to stay the same way.
Mm. Wow. It's something that I've had to think about, is this idea of marriage and the concept of like how we view marriage as forever, right? I've had to really think about it because, I was once married and now I'm not married anymore. And when you think about a person's imperfections in marriage, I feel like your mom had just had a lot of wisdom in what she did and how she did it, because she didn't kind of just react based on, I'm sure that there was disappointment in her heart, right? But she didn't make a decision based on her heart that may have been disappointed. She made a practical decision that was good for everyone in the family. And I don't think there's enough people who are willing to go out on a limb and say that it's worth it to attempt to repair a marriage after infidelity. Like a lot of people will think infidelity should be the end of a marriage. And I actually think the opposite. I think the marriage should continue even if there's infidelity. If there's the heart in the other person that is like repentant and they want to change and they understand the damage that it's done and they figure, can I try to make the marriage still work? I think there is some value to that. I think the difference is if the person is, if you've lost trust, I think, and the person is not willing to try to make some concessions, some adjustments. If you're not willing to put out there, like these are the couple of things that I need and I expect, and this is where I can't bend, and they're not willing to make those small adjustments, I don't know where it goes from there. But I know there's a lot of people that get hurt, not just the couple. The kids get hurt. A lot of people get hurt.
Yeah, but I think, it always comes back to understanding yourself, knowing yourself. So, like, for example, from my mom, I always remember that she knew herself amazingly well, to the fact that she knew how she wanted to die, and she died the very same way that she wanted to. And that was always like amazing to me. I could not understand that a lot of times, because, like, for example, she always had in mind that she was gonna die, and of course, because we're humans and everybody's gonna die, is going to die. So she had her plan, and she always thought, I'm not gonna push it. So she was like, if I get super sick, I don't want to stay in a hospital. I want to just die. Because I want to live a life that I enjoy. And to understand that, she had to understand what does she enjoys. And she didn't want to push it to stuff just because. So she always tried to do whatever she liked, and that was amazing. So, for example, in that area, so she said, like, you know what? If in this marriage somebody dies or we separate, I don't know how to have a job. I've never had a job, and I know I'm not gonna be able to handle the pressure from having a job, from providing to the home, from so she was like, I chose you, my dad, because I found that you are the best provider that I could have. So your job is to provide to this home. My job is to raise the children. My job is to have a nice home, a clean home. My job is to worry about this while you worry about money, and then you provide. And then I'm going to give you food. I'm going to give you clothes. My dad, he didn't even know where clothes were bought. So when she decided, or when she had that condition where my dad cheated, she stayed because she knew that she was having a good life. She loved that guy. She loved that provider. She was doing her job in the best way. He was doing his job in the best way. There were mistakes. She still enjoyed the type of life that she was having. And she knew her weaknesses. She knew that going out and finding a job is not something she was going to be good at. And she didn't even was gonna like that. So she was like, you know what? I like this. This is a good life. I'm gonna stay here. And I think that now that I'm working, sometimes you try to push yourself to be the best, to find the better car, the better house, and you push yourself to stuff that at the end you don't even enjoy. So yeah, so my mom had to take a very hard decision, but she lived the life that she enjoyed the best until the very last day of her life. And that is something that is amazing, because I think now, I see now that to have the best of this life, you have to bail on a lot of stuff. And you have to know your weaknesses.
Wow.
And you have to follow whatever you want to follow. It doesn't matter if it's the right stuff for people in church. It doesn't matter if it's the right stuff for people in the society. It's just whatever you like, and that's it.
Wow. In other words, you feel like you have to be at peace with your decisions. Exactly. Even if other people who might be in your inner circle can't accept it, you have to be able to sleep at night and accept your decisions and accept that, you know, I'm taking this decision because this is my overall goal. And while they don't understand, it's still accomplishing the majority of what I'm looking for out of this life.
Yes.
And that's a hard decision sometimes.
It's so hard, because to understand that, you have to understand yourself. You have to know what you like, what you don't like, what you accept, what you don't accept.
And what you can accept for a long term. Because accepting something for 30 days is not the same as accepting it for 5 years or 10 or 20 or a lifetime. Anybody can accept anything for 30 days probably.
Exactly.
That's tough. That's tough. But you know, I mean, these are like really common things though. So when we think about it, you know, this is such common stuff that I think it's a worthwhile discussion, you know, to really be able to say, you know, I think it's a worthwhile discussion. I'll leave it at that. I think it is, because at the end of the day, there's this idea that we can always bail and walk away, but is our overall life, is it improving or is it decreasing? Like, are we at the end of the day, I think with divorce, you know, people will say in the early stages of it, there's a winner and a loser, but I actually think, like, you feel like on both sides, you lost something, you know, and you're having a brand new beginning. That I feel like that's the reality. You are having a brand new beginning, and you do lose something because you had another person who was your, the Bible says to become one flesh, that's your person. And then something does rip and you do lose something there. So I think the question becomes, I think people have to think really, really carefully about like what they feel in their heart versus like what does the Bible say about that situation versus, where are you going to find your peace? And I think it's probably one of the most difficult things ever. I think like when you know yourself well, it could even be a difficult decision because let's say you know yourself well and you struggle with forgiveness. Like if you're the person who struggles to forgive someone and that's just how you've been with many people, that you've got grudges 5 years long and 10 years long and 20 years long, and then your partner does something to you that way, that can be really difficult to like, okay, I need to try to forgive them and move forward. Even if that's what you should do and what would be a practical thing to do, if that that's one of your personal struggles, it becomes a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah, it's so hard, and there's the bad thing for me on religion.
Really?
And Christianity, at least Christianity. The fact that there's stuff that it just happens, and there is stuff that comes from God, and there is stuff that God is gonna fix. Because I think that yes, there is a God, and so for me, I was telling my sister this couple of weeks before. So I understand now, the way I see this now is that there is a God that he doesn't have a plan. There's no way that he has a plan. But he does have like a zoom out type of view of the world. And not just the world, but time.
Mm.
So he can see the path that a decision is going to take you to. But because you have the freedom of choice, you can have so many decisions that God doesn't have the control of, because he gave you the freedom of choice. Mm. So he gave you his plan. So the plan is a commitment between you and God. There's no written plan. There's no like, oh yeah, no, God knows what's gonna happen. So for me, there's a problem with Christianity right now, what I've seen, because you marry this girl, and because God chose that girl for you. He didn't choose it. It was you and your feelings and your decisions and your emotions and your experience what chose that girl. So I think you gotta ask God for guidance, but you gotta own your decisions. You gotta own what you took. And you gotta own, like, okay, so yeah, I'm gonna try to marry someone. Okay, so you wanna try to marry someone, you ask God for guidance, and then you understand yourself, your limits, what you like, what you don't like. You go meet someone, and in the human way, you analyze her, you check what she likes, what she doesn't like. You check how you feel, how you like the chemistry that you have with people, and then you make a decision. But that decision didn't come from God. God gave you some guidance. God knows what can happen if you do this and this and that. If you have a very strong relationship with God, I think you can talk to him. He can reply to whatever you ask. But he's not going to choose for you. That's why he gave you the freedom of choice. He's going to tell you, well, you know what? These are the paths. If you choose this is going to happen. And then you make the decision.
Wow.
I think.
I can't tell you that I've ever experienced God telling me this is my person. I've never experienced that. However, I've experienced God telling me someone is not my person and run. Isn't it kind of strange? I mean, part of me, I wonder, like you were saying, you don't feel that God picks out your partner. You don't feel like he selects them. You feel that we select our partner. He gives us that freedom to select, but the guidance to kind of like help us select. Well, God has given me the guidance to say, don't select that one. And he's done it twice. Like twice in like marriage level situations. So, I mean, the first time he did it, I just didn't listen because I thought I would just know better. And the second time he did it, I did just run because the first time I learned my lesson the first time he spoke on something like this. And I was like, oh, I didn't listen. This time I'm like, nope, I should listen. He knows me. He knows better. He can see something that I can't see. I'm just going to listen. So yeah, I've experienced him like giving the radical no. I've not sensed him give like an overwhelming, like, this is your person and here's the name. That's never happened.
So see, I'm reading this book, and again, it blew my mind that it says that you gotta get out of your own head because you see stuff the way that you have experienced before. And sometimes you create problems that don't exist. And sometimes you are afraid of something that you don't know you can handle. And you're never going to know until you experience it or until you see the things in a different way. So I think that God is like a friend where you have a conversation with a friend and he tells you like, hey, you know what? Like when you're with this person, your eyes are like brighter, or when you're with this person, like you smile a lot, or I see that you're not feeling the same way, like in a bad way. So, and you cannot see that on your own, and it's not that this friend told you that this is a good person or not. It's that this friend gave you a different way of looking at things. And then you take the decision. Am I going the right way or not? So I think it's the same with God. You are in prayer. You have whatever relationship you have with God. But if it's strong, you are going to feel that conversation, and you are going to see stuff in a way that is you were not thinking that way. So then you have an idea on are you going the right way or not? And sometimes, do you want to stay committed? Do you want to yeah? So it always comes when you're having problems. Because when you're having a good relationship, then it's always fun. But when you have problems, what are the problems that you're going to work on? What are the problems that you want to improve yourself to fix them? What are the problems that you're going to expect this person to improve on himself to fix those issues? What are the problems that you're going to accept even if they don't get fixed? If he's messy or something and he's going to be messy the rest of his life, are you just going to be like, all right, so yeah, I take it. It's never going to get fixed, no problem. So, yeah, I think with God is like a friend that he tells you, well, I see this, I see that, and then you make the decision.
That makes me wonder because, it seems like before people are married, those same problems have to exist, right? Before they get married, the people are still the same people. In some kind of way, after they get married, the problems seem bigger. Something happens and I don't know, but it's the same people. So how do you feel that shift is happening? What's going on that the same two people are kind of having their messiness and whatever, whatever if they struggle with keeping a job or they're messy or whatever it is. It seems like before the marriage, a lot of those things some kind of way were tolerable, and then after the marriage, some kind of way people are like, I've had enough. Like what is happening after people get married that it's the same person, but their perspective on it, just they run out of strength to deal with it. What do you think that is that's happening?
I've heard that the love comes in different stages. So first you are like in love where you don't see mistakes on that person. Then after that, you start seeing what she or he does wrong, but you think that is going to change over time, so you stay there. And then after, you see that nothing has changed, and you start like having all these problems. But it's your humanity, is the way that your hormones work, is the way that your brain works. So if you don't understand all these steps on your own self, then after a year or something, you're gonna be like, well, now I see all these problems I didn't see before, so now I wanna quit. Mm-hmm. But then you go to meet another person, and because you didn't understand humanity, you're gonna go through the same process. You're gonna come after a year. You're gonna see like, hey, you know what? I didn't see these problems before, so I quit. So you're gonna keep quitting again. So if you understand humanity, if you separate what spirituality is, if you separate what God is to the human reactions that we have, and then you understand humanity, and you understand how love works, and you understand then, okay, I can see your problems now, so I know that we have to work this out. I know that now I can make a decision, and it's actually is this a big problem, or is this a problem I can live with? But yeah, we say like, yeah, but you change. Sometimes he never or she never changed. It's just your humanity. You were so in love before. Now you're going in a different stage of the love. So just keep working on that, and you're gonna go to the different stage. So if you don't understand that stuff is gonna change, and it's always changing, and it's forever gonna change, and you don't like the change, and you don't understand the change, then it's gonna be so hard to live.
There's a lot of complexity with that when you think about people evolving over the years, and the person that you signed up and married isn't going to be the one that you're with 20 years later, that they're going to evolve, and so are you. And both people are married to someone who's, to some extent different 20 years later. That's interesting.
But I think it's good, because if you are the same person that you were at your 20s, then you would be in a mess.
That is true.
Because at 20, you're having fun, you don't care about anything, you're spending like crazy.
This is true. This is very true. And some people are still doing it at 30, so.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, so here's the thing. So do you think, so we talked about like how long you should wait. I think people should be like around a year. If you've put in good effort, I think it's time to move it along at a year. Either move forward or take a hike at a year if you've been putting in good effort. That's what I think. You think it doesn't matter? Or you think it depends on your overall goals? Like if your goals are like children by a certain age and all these things, you think it more depends on your like overall life goals. How does that decision fit into your life goals, right? So if you've got the time, maybe you've got 5 years, you can give them 5 years. Is that your opinion on like the waiting game?
Yeah, for me, I think I've never been married. So maybe.
So you're an expert at dating?
So, not really. So maybe my answer is not the best. I don't know. It comes from my experience. But yeah, again, I think it all depends on if you're feeling good with the life that you're having or not. Because, for example, my mom and my dad, they stay being like boyfriend and girlfriend for 10 years.
Wow.
And then after 10 years, they had to get married. And it was a very painful marriage for so many years, but in a way they understood that it just worked for them, that they needed each other because of something bigger. When my mom died, half of my dad's world was something that he have never experienced. So he had to start learning how to cook, how to be at home, how to talk to me, because he was the provider. He was not a dad. So he had to understand that he had kids. He had to understand a lot of stuff. And so they had a plan. They had a bigger plan. They had something that they understood, and only they understood. Then I have an uncle and an aunt. They met once. They were a couple for 3 months. They got married. For me, not being inside the family, just being an outsider, for me, I could see it was the best marriage ever. They love each other. They support each other. They would fight, even family, for their marriage.
And they were only knowing each other for a couple of months, and they got married.
They got married. They had the best marriage ever. And my dad was for 10 years with my mom, and after that they get married. So it all depends on if you're feeling okay with that person or not. I think a lot of stuff. I think we want to put laws. We want to put rules in a lot of stuff. And I think even Jesus came to say, I don't know how to say in English. But I think Jesus came to say, you didn't understand, man. You didn't understand that it was not about the rules. It was about the feeling. It was about what you're doing with your life, with this life, not if you're following the rules or not. So I think marriage or stuff like this is like, it doesn't have like a certain time or a certain order.
If we could only follow the model that we got from Jesus, when the Bible says that the marriage is supposed to be, like the marriage covenant is supposed to be the same way as the way Christ loves the church, and it's everlasting, and it's unconditional, and it's despite our mistakes. Man, if we could only have marriages that are like that, we would be amazed. I mean, I would be amazed to see more marriages like that. But like you said, it's the humanity side that gets us. And then it's the decision, are we going to be able to push through, or are we just bail.
But
Everything is about, so we started off talking about bailing and we end up talking about bailing.
so, but there is a comedian in Mexico, and he said that if marriage was that good, Jesus would have got married.
Ouch. Ouch.
Not even Jesus wanted to get married. So.
Well, the disciples said that when they realized what was really expected out of marriage, they were like, we're better off single. In some kind of way, that thought got passed down to all men. You know what's interesting is before you got here, I was on a Zoom call with an abstinence group. And there are men in that abstinence group and there are women in that abstinence group. And so each person was getting on the line and having like a chat about their experience in abstinence and how they were looking forward to like a future partner. And I think what amazed me the most, because, you know, outside of that group, I don't always hear how vulnerable men are and how interested they are in settling down. And what's interesting inside of that group is you see a lot of men who like are interested in growing in their image of Christ. They're like interested in growing themselves and being made more like Christ over time. And you see a lot of the men who actually verbalize, yes, I'm looking to be married one day. I would like for that to happen sooner than later. That is like a really beautiful thing to even be in a social circle, because outside of that circle, you know, I mean, that circle is like a bubble, but outside of that circle, I don't often, I'm not going to say never, but I don't often hear as many men transparently vocalize how important it is that they do settle down in a time frame that's suitable to them. Like, I don't often hear that they would say that. But inside of that circle, they are very transparent that they, you know, not only are they wanting to grow and be perfected over time, growing in holiness, but they also verbalize how important it is for them to get married. And I'm like, wow, like that's the one small circle where I see like so much vulnerability, and I see people who are very decisive about their life and their, you know, their life plans and their life goals, and that they're placing some strategy in their world in order to achieve that goal, that life goal. But it's just complicated. Like when I think about what the Bible says about being a good partner, and then what you see in real life, like we are so imperfect, and that includes me. Like we are so imperfect because I'm good until I'm impatient, and then there's that. Oh, she's cute and she's nice and she's funny, but don't let her get impatient.
But see, that's the fun part about being human and about God making us humans. Because when we got kicked out of I don't know in English, the garden.
The fall of humanity.
Yeah.
Adam and Eve.
Adam and Eve, yeah. God, He didn't say from now on you're gonna pray. He said from now on you're gonna work. And then when you go to church and you say like, hey, you know what, I'm having this problem. Oh yeah, just pray and God is gonna fix it. Nope. When we got kicked out, He didn't say like, oh yeah, just pray every day and everything's gonna be fine. That was in heaven. That's not how it works in earth. And he explicitly said, now you're gonna have to work it out. So now it depends on you. So I'm gonna be here, but you're gonna have to do the job. So yeah, so it's very hard, and like he said, it's gonna be so hard. He said you're gonna sweat. He said that's the way it's gonna be, and for women, he said it's gonna be painful, and you don't know pain. Now you're gonna know pain when you have children. And that's the way it's going to be.
Unbelievable.
So now that you have a problem, and you say like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna pray about it and then it's gonna get fixed. Nope. You're gonna pray about it. You're gonna have some guidance, and then you're gonna have a hard time changing stuff, improving stuff, and then you're gonna have a good life. But it's gonna be painful, and you have to do a lot of work that you don't want to do. But that's in the Bible. You're gonna have to work.
Well, I mean, when I think about one of the biggest losses that happened in the garden when Adam and Eve fell is like the idea that before that fall, they didn't have to really think for themselves. They didn't have to make like a bunch of decisions. They literally could go to their Father in heaven for everything, and their lives were it wasn't just that physically working the garden, but the like how difficult it is to make a big decision in life, you know, and all the little ones that are in between. They literally never had to make decisions for themselves because God gave them this childlike heart, and like they didn't have to think that hard. And can you imagine like how peaceful they were not having to like think really hard or make decisions? And now we're like looking at our gas tank like, okay, should I get gas now or can I wait like till I leave this venue and then get the gas because, you know, time, you know, like every decision we make is all like stressful. And those are little decisions, right? And then we're talking about things like moving, taking a new job, who I'm going to partner with for life. Like these are big decisions. And then there are the little decisions. Should I like go out alone tonight? Or should I stay here? Should I go out on this, you know, date with this person? I don't really know them. Or should I just stay here? Should I just kind of like wait and just hang out with my group friends and then see if someone shows up here and I meet them here? Or should I go like be more intentional about it? All of these decisions that we're hit with all day long. And I think a lot of decisions like that, it can be exhausting. So can you imagine the beauty of like, I'm going to compare it to this cat. There's a cat that my neighbor and I share. It's a community cat. So I call it my part-time cat. It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to her. The cat belongs to the community. And as this cat shows up at my house, I feed the cat whenever I see the cat. I literally bought them like a little bowl and some food and all that. My neighbor did the same thing. And it was months after feeding the cats that we finally realized that we were taking care of the same cat. And I even took pictures of the cat. And I was like, oh, yeah. Have you seen Midnight, you know? And she said, oh, yeah, I know that cat. I take care of her too. And so, I mean, the sweetness of, you see how God takes care of the animals? I don't know how that cat knew to show up at my house and Tracy's house. I have no clue how that cat knew to be at this door, because one day it was literally at the front door, like a person, you know, knock, knock, waiting on food. And I've been taking care of that cat, you know, as it shows up whenever, ever since then. And so has Tracy. But you don't see the cat everywhere at every house. He just instinctively knows where to go to be provided for. And I feel like that's the beauty of what happened in the garden before the fall, is like we were just like those small animals who were just well taken care of without saying much of anything. Just God's positioned that cat to find the homes that are going to provide for him, and that's it. And they don't have to question, ask, think, beg, anything. It's just getting done automatically, as such that the cats are living for years and years, and never having an actual, you know, home to plant themselves. That's what I think is so sad. Like we lost that. We lost the ability to be completely childlike and not have to really think much, and how much gray hair and stress we get from having to make decisions all day.
But then you're saying that God made a mistake.
No, I'm not saying he made a mistake. I'm more or less saying that the sweetness of our innocence was such a perfect state. Because I wish I could have some of that now. I'm tired of making decisions.
Exactly, but then you say that God made a mistake when he made, because the human was made in the garden.
Well, the humans made the mistake.
No, because even in the garden, God made you, even in the garden, when he created the first people, the the best thing and the only thing that you have in difference, the only different thing that you have with animals is the freedom of choice. And that was the very specific thing that God decided to put on the human beings. So if that was the very specific design by God thing that he said, like, this is gonna be the best thing ever for this type of being, that is gonna make them different from all other living how to say
Creatures.
creatures, from all different other different creatures. So for him, that means that that was the best thing ever. To give you the freedom of choice, for God, it's the best thing ever, because he explicitly says that that is the thing that makes you different from all the other creatures. So, and even in the garden, we had jobs. And even in the garden, it's not like God is going to fix everything. Because he gave Adam the job of putting names to the creatures, and he gave the job of ruling the world.
That's a lot of. It's a big job description.
So I think exactly. So I think that he knows that you gotta have a purpose, that you gotta work for something, that you gotta have your mind in use. So I think even from the and that you have to make decisions, because he could have put the names to all these creatures because he created them, and he didn't do it. He gave us the freedom of choice to put names to creatures, to research, to create, to to have decisions. That was the very best. For God, that was the very best thing. He thought that was going to be very fun. And so, yeah, it's hard. And we sometimes take very bad decisions.
Yep. One step too far. A bridge too far in that garden, I tell you.
But if you understand that that is the fun part of being a human and you embrace it, then you can have better decisions, because now you're more confident that that came from God. So I'm going to try it out.
What do you think? I'm curious, because we're talking about the early beginnings when technically time in life was to some extent perfect. What do you think? Because, pre-salvation, we call before Christ our BC days. And then after salvation, I know you and I both have like a BC days, and then we have an after salvation kind of life. What do you think? And I'm having to think through this myself. What do you think is the best thing? Like the best thing or things about getting saved and now being on this side of like knowing God, knowing Jesus? Like, what do you think are like the benefits after you getting saved? And kind of like, because obviously fall of humanity was hard on all of us, in our BC days. What do you think like is good on this side, on the good side of after being saved? What do you think is good? That people that maybe that don't believe in Jesus yet, they don't know. Maybe they're not saved yet. Like what would you say to someone, like to encourage someone after they're saved? Like what things might they expect that are like, man, this might make you hopeful about being saved?
For me, I don't think I'm saved. And I don't think I'm ever going to be saved until I'm in heaven. And if I'm in heaven, then I know that I'm saved. For me, there was a change in my life, but it wasn't church. It was something spiritual, yes, but it was not something that I liked. For me, my change was the first thing that I got in problems with the law.
So you're saying post meeting God, you like feel more balanced and you make better decisions, more like that.
No, no. So I've known God since I was a kid, and I know the church thing was since I was a kid, and I've heard about God, um, and I always knew that He existed, and I always had this relationship with Him. I think I learned from my dad that God is somewhere in there, and you always have to talk to Him, and He's gonna guide you somehow. And I remember we were young and we were going to in a road trip. I don't remember where. So we stopped in a gas station for food. It was like a restaurant in a gas station, and there was a problem with the server, and she took like 1 or 2 hours to give us the bill, and there was a lot of problems that it was like they were like very weird, like it normally doesn't happen like that. So my dad lost patience, and he started screaming, and he was like, you know what, this is the worst service and this and that, and he was like, let's get out of here. And then we get out of there, and it's the biggest crash ever. It was so many cars, and we remember some of the cars because we were like playing these games where you see the red car, and we saw those cars like under the big trucks. Like of course people died in there. So many people died. It was so many cars, over 30 cars, and it was the cars that were next to us in the whole road before. We were next to those cars. So for my dad was like, you know what, we should go back to that server and thank her, because if she wasn't having all those problems, we would be dead right now. So for him, it was that day was something that changed everything. And he said, like, this is God's power.
Wow.
Because I remember with him, every time we were on a road trip, we would have to pray before getting into the car to the road trip and stuff like that. So he was like, there's no way you can explain this unless you believe that there is a God. So stuff like that stayed in my head, and sometimes I was having stuff I couldn't deal with, and I was like, you know what? The only way to deal with this is to think that there is a God. So I'm going to talk to this God, and I'm going to ask him for stuff. But, so I always knew God. So, but I made so many mistakes, I made so many bad choices until I got into a big trouble. And then there was only two options. God made it, or I did it because of my mistakes. And of course I did it. Of course it was my decisions that made me end up in that situation. So, all right, so if it's my stuff, then I have to do something about it. So I have to stop doing this, I have to stop doing that, because I ended up in a situation that I felt that was not me. And I shouldn't be living something like that. So if you say, all right, so this is because I made these choices, then you can have a better life, because now you have stuff that you can change. Now you have stuff that you can control. And when you're going through a different path, of course you're going to have different life.
So you don't feel like that was you going through being reborn so much. It's just you going through life lessons and then growing and maturing from life lessons. You don't really associate it with like necessarily salvation or being born again. You more or less associate it with like, okay, life lessons, I'm growing and maturing and learning things, but not necessarily, you don't connect it necessarily to God.
Not necessarily, yes. And I think there is a guidance. So at that moment, I think that so far, that was my second lowest point ever. And I asked God again for like like I need some guidance here, because some of this stuff I don't even understand why it happened.
Wow.
And some of this stuff, yeah, I kind of have an idea of why it happened. But the part of the things that I don't understand what happened in there, how can I fix that? How can I do something in there? Because I don't even understand what's going on. So I tried to have all these conversations with him until he started like answering a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. But so coming back to being saved or not, I don't like when people in church say, you have a problem, you go pray, and God is gonna fix you because He loves you, or God is gonna fix that problem because He loves you. And I don't like that there is people that is good, that is safe, that is better, that is whatever, and people that is not. And I don't like that people that is going to church, it's following the right path, and people that is not going to church is following a wrong path. Because, again, it's the same thing. I think when God kicked us out of the garden, He didn't say, go out and pray. He said, go out and work. So when you go to church, you still have problems. You still have to work it out. You still have to understand your humanity. And on top of that, you gotta own that a lot of things that are happening in your life is because of your decisions. Either you made a good decision and following the right path, or you made a wrong decision and made mistakes that have consequences. If you don't, if you say everything comes from God, then you're never gonna grow. And if you don't grow, then you're gonna have a very pitiful life, and you're gonna have a bad marriage, and you're gonna meet wrong people, and you're gonna have stuff in your life that you don't understand, and then you're gonna say, well, this is the life that God chose for me, so I'm gonna have to stick with it. And I don't think that's how it works.
It's interesting. I mean, actually, I think I hear what you're saying. I feel like you're telling me that your position is that you feel that God is looking for our heart to change, not necessarily all of these things. Like you're going to church and you're square, and someone said that, someone said this specifically about you, someone categorizes you this way. You're more like, my heart is different. God knows it. I know it. The end. But all of these other categories, I'm not so certain about all those categories. It sounds like you're saying, leave me alone with the categories and let me live.
Yeah,
Let me live and grow.
because I think even Jesus came at some point and say like, hey, you didn't understand. Because the people that killed Jesus was not people from the world. It was the church.
Yeah.
The church killed Jesus. And because he came and said, you didn't understand people. I gave you rules, but I think the rules that we have are to guide us on the fact that we are humans. So a human needs discipline. A human needs a purpose. A human needs a guidance. A human needs a community. So if you have all these, then you have a healthy life. So I think all these rules were made for our humanity, our human part of ourselves. The spiritual part is something different. So I think because God made us humans, He gave us the rules for our humanity. That doesn't have anything to do with spirituality. So I think we mixed it, and then we created something that is not truth. And then Jesus came and said, "Ah,
You blew it again.
yes."
I'm leaving you guys alone. You blew it once. Now you blew it again.
So I think he came to say it's about purpose, people. It's not about the law. It's not about the process. No. It's about the process. It's not about the rules. It's about enjoying this world. It's not about killing yourself. Because they were so strict. Before Jesus came, they were so strict.
They were so strict when they were still messing up. They were still making mistakes.
Yeah, because they were looking at the laws because they didn't want to make a mistake. They were so strict because they didn't want to make a mistake. And then Jesus, I think all over the Bible, God is trying to say, God is making a lot of mistakes to show you that you should make mistakes. Because I think, I don't remember who was the guy, but he took it. I think it was David. David comes from Moab. And Moab was supposed to be against the how to say in English? It's hard to say in English.
Against the things of God.
Yes, the people from God. And he specifically chose this girl to marry this guy. I don't remember the names, but he chose her from Moab. And then from Moab comes David, and from David comes all these tribes from Israel. And that is specifically designed to Israel to tell them it's not about following the rules, because it's about grace. It's about forgiveness. It's about enjoying this life. So I'm gonna choose someone that is not from Israel to show you that I don't care about that. And then, yeah, there are some other stories in the Bible where God is specifically designing stuff that is wrong to show people that it's not about following the rules, it's about doing the good stuff. And then Jesus came and he specifically told them again, yeah, you have, he told them, you're being too strict. And then you're not supposed to do anything on the Sabbath. And he did stuff on the Sabbath. So he was breaking all these rules to show them that it was not about the rules. And then he was not going with the people from church. He was hanging out with the prostitutes. He was hanging out with people that were thieves. He was hanging out with all these people that that you're not supposed to be with them. And Jesus came to say, you're supposed to be with them. You're supposed to be enjoying this world and helping them to not kill themselves with all these wrong decisions. So help them out, be better, and that's the purpose of this life.
It's interesting because, you know, I learned in seminary that the law was made because man had no rules, and without rules, we were just going crazy, and we didn't even know what right was and what wrong was. So everything seemed pretty good to us, like anything. So it seems like we got the law so that we would understand right from wrong, even though we would have a tendency toward wrong. We would at least we'd know this is the category of wrong, this is the category of right. Okay, now that we know that, let's continue to break all the rules and do wrong. What's interesting is, the grace of God is something special, I gotta tell you. But I find that I'm so grateful for the grace of God and just having the ability to make a mistake and God still loves me, even if I've made a mistake and like, okay, blew it today, God, he still loves me. But it's like, I notice whenever I have an issue with like breaking his rules, I notice I get the blowback from that. Like, I notice there's like a natural response to when I am disobedient. Like, there's a natural fallout that happens, and I come away from the circumstances saying to myself, yeah, maybe I'll try it differently next time. I come away from it that way, not because I feel like ostracized or punished, because I feel like so many Christians, when I got saved, I felt more like in the box of legalism. We talked about that before. Like, I felt like I was in that box, and I no longer feel like I'm in that box. But I feel like there's a lot of freedom in like letting go of that box, because as you said, Christ came to say like, hey, you're not locked in a box. Like, it's okay, like move forward here. But at the same rate, I guess for me, that little bit of the tension and the rub is trying to be more like Christ. And at the same time, when I take a decision that's probably not in the will of God, right? I take a decision that's in that way. I feel the pain of those decisions. As I make those decisions that I know are kind of like not in his will, I actually feel the blowback of those decisions. So even though we're not like bound by law, right? I still feel that sense of, well, it looks like every time I kind of stay closer to God on this stuff, I feel like my life is more peaceful, to be quite honest.
And then whenever I move away from it, I feel like some kind of way I lose my peace.
I think at least the church I know right now, I think we're the same people that killed Jesus again. So I think he might come early, not soon.
Do you think he'll come soon?
Because, and we're gonna kill him again. And we're not gonna see him again, and we're gonna do the very same mistake again.
Well, I don't. Next time he comes, there's no chance that we could kill him again because he's not coming as a baby. He's coming to like end all the sin. He's gonna be like, last time he came, like, kind of going through the years, like, small child on up. So yeah, those possibilities were there. He's not coming back as a baby though. He's coming back, sword, horse. It's gonna be the end for evil.
Yeah, but the thing is that he came to show, because he should have not come in the beginning, because God from the beginning was trying to say you have to do this and this and that, and you're gonna have a good life. Of course that is painful, and he said it's gonna be painful, but just deal with it and you're gonna have a good life, because I'm still gonna be here. And there are some stuff that we don't understand, and then he put some laws in there. But those laws are not because of if you follow the rules, then you're safe. And those laws are not because you do this and that, and then God is gonna reply to you. Those laws are because you're human. So, and you need structure, some type of structure. So, if you understand your humanity, you should go to the gym. You should go run. You should go have some exercise. You should eat well. You should have like some friends, some community, because your spirit, your mind, and your, what's that, spirit, mind, and flesh, I think. So
You're talking about spirit, soul, body.
Soul, body, spirit, soul, body. So your spirit comes in connection to God. Your soul comes in connection to your mind, and your body is the flesh. So you want sex, for example. That's not from your communication with God, and that is not good or bad, because that is something else. That is your body. You have depression sometimes, or anxiety sometimes. That doesn't come from your body, and that doesn't come from God. That comes from your mind, having all these thoughts, having all these decisions to make, having all this stuff. You have a connection with God that doesn't have anything to do with your anger at some point. So if you don't understand all these three different things, and you don't treat them properly, and you don't separate them, then you have all this crazy stuff. So yeah, I think everything comes back to humanity. So if you understand that you need a good body to to do, to carry stuff, to carry your child, to go to work and be proficient at your job. If then, so if you understand that, then you will do exercise, and doing exercise doesn't have anything to do with God. It has to. It yeah, it's your human life. Praying helps you to have a good connection with God. It doesn't do anything for your body, but because all of those three things are together, if you pray and have good guidance, then you make better decisions. So your soul, your mind doesn't have anxiety, and then you wake up in the morning and run, then your body is healthy, then you can get on your knees and pray more, and then you can be more confident and make better decisions and have less depression. So it all connects, and God understands from the beginning that you needed some structure, you needed some laws, because He wanted you to pray better. He wanted you to have a good condition in your mind, in your body, in your whole human being. But turns out we took it to like, oh yeah, I gotta do this, oh yeah, I gotta do that. But why are you doing that? Oh, because I was told to do that. That it doesn't work like that, man. So I think that's the problem, that now we do stuff that we don't even know why. But we were told to do that, and we have to do that. And then we get so anxious, and we get unhappy, and we get depressed because we cannot follow Jesus' path. And if you think in a different way, following Jesus' path is being a rebel, is being against church. Because Jesus was doing everything that church didn't allow. And they killed him. They didn't kill him because he was God. They killed him because he was a rebel. And that's why they, like the Jewish people, they still don't accept Jesus, because they see him as a rebel. They see him as somebody that he was very knowledgeable. They recognize him as a prophet. It doesn't match the prophecy in the way they think of. And on top of that, he was a rebel guy. So if you want to follow Jesus, you should be rebel. You should have a purpose. You should be happy. You should teach people how to live a happy life and be okay with wherever they are, and help them understand that the discipline is for your humanity, not for your spirituality. Because if you're fat, you have diabetes. That doesn't have anything to do with God. That is how your body is, what things you can eat and not eat. So, if you want to follow Jesus' path, then you gotta be a rebel. Go against church. And then we'd say like, oh yeah, we gotta be perfect because Jesus was perfect. Jesus was rebel.
Interesting perspective. That's very interesting. I don't quite think that Jesus was a rebel, but I guess for his day, considering they had people who wanted to color inside the line, and he was like, no, let's color outside the line.
Yeah.
When people were like, we want to fellowship with people that are like us. He was like, no, let's fellowship with people who are not like us.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. I don't think that his intention was to say that church is bad. It's just that he was trying to show the church how to be, how to have like a new skin, instead of having the old skin. I think he was trying to teach the church how to be a new creation as a body, like, okay, there's a better way of doing this. You guys are onto something, but there's a better way of doing this. How about this? I think he was trying to show them that there's a different way of doing something where the heart is being shown in a way that's loving to the neighbor. I think he was trying to show that. And I think his goal was really to bring more people to faith. And he was focusing on people who had a heart that was willing to change.
I'm having, like, I'm very mad right now with that specific thing of bringing people to church or bringing people to the faith.
Oh, tell me.
Because, like right now, I've seen at my church a lot of effort. And an effort so strong that they get mad.
Oh.
Because you're not bringing people to church. And I think Jesus was not bringing people to church, and he wasn't bringing people to the faith. And that's the fun part about it. And again, because we're trying to go to heaven, we're trying to follow a path. And it's not about following the path, it's about being the path and enjoying the path and having fun in the path and having friends in there. So for church, when Jesus was against church, he knows that we're humans. He knows that we need community. And he went out and created a community. And he chose friends. And he told them, you're going to follow me. And he had a gang. So, and he was always with his friends. Because you need community. And he was not just praying. He was not just on his knees and praying. And he was not telling them, hey, you know what? Yeah, God is gonna fix it. Don't do anything. He was with his friends, went out, met more people, had fun. And I think he was a showman. And he was the best showman ever.
In what way?
He understood humanity. He understood that humans need to see stuff. And humans need to be impressed. And humans need to be touched. Either like our body, like having a hug or touching another human, and also our spirit, our heart. We like I don't know how to say, but like for example, on the movies, they design a movie that is gonna move your heart, that is gonna make you cry, that is gonna make you laugh, because they understand humanity. They make a movie and they know what feeling are you gonna be having at what specific second in that movie. And they play a specific song, they put specific colors, they made it in a specific, like slow motion, like specific speed, because they know that you are human being. So I think Jesus knew that. Jesus knew that you need to be touched in a certain way. So I think people were not following God because you're perfect and you're God. They didn't even know that he was God. They didn't even understand that he was God. But
So you think they were following signs and wonders and miracles, some things that were very unusual for the time.
yeah, they were following miracles. They were following a weird guy. They were following a very powerful guy that had the I don't know how to say, that was taking risks, that he was against the church, and he was very he knew what he was doing. He knew he was right, and he took the risk, and he was doing whatever he felt he was the best, and he was teaching people why was he the best. For example, when he, I think he cured someone on a Sabbath.
Yeah.
And then the people from church came and
Ridiculed him.
You're doing wrong stuff because you're working on a Sabbath. And then he was like, okay, so tell me what's the priority, the human life or the Sabbath? And they didn't know what to answer because both questions there was no right answer to that. So they had to leave him alone. He was so powerful, so knowledgeable, that people were not following him because he was God. People were following him because they were having fun with him, because he was improving their lives, because they come with this sickness that they don't have an idea how to cure, and there is this guy that has the knowledge and he cures people, and the right path to Jesus is being like Jesus, but not being a God, not being perfect, not following this path.
What do you think about the woman at the well? What do you think about her and in her conversation, what she came away with? What do you think about her experience with him? Do you think that she was going back and talking to all the town people about Jesus because he simply knew things, or because she just felt it doesn't say that in that chapter, like she felt that he is God or something, but what do you think she came away from that? Like, what excited her about Jesus in your opinion?
That he was doing crazy stuff. Because, wouldn't you tell your friends if you come here and your dad is dead and then there's a guy that comes and brings your dad back to life? Wouldn't you tell people hey?
I mean, it's complicated because there has to be on some level a knowing of what is kind of like the Lazarus situation, what things belong to God and what things don't belong to God. Because the woman at the well, he basically shared with her life. Okay, I know about your life, but a fortune teller could also tell her about her life, potentially. So then from the human side, Like, how does the human go forward when there's someone who is ungodly who has a certain act, and then someone who's godly and they have a certain similar act? Then what's the human response going to be to that? Would it be confusion, or would people automatically say, wait a second, something feels wrong when I use an incorrect source? You know, how does the human respond to similar circumstances when it's like a fortune teller? Because, you know, I was recently watching a short segment online about a gentleman who doesn't seem like he knew God. I'll put it that way. It doesn't seem like he knew God. And he spoke about being encouraged to sit with a fortune teller. And then he did. And then whatever information he gave, the fortune teller gave to him, seemed to be somewhat significant. And so then what would your response be for someone like that who doesn't understand? Because he might get excited about a fortune teller. You know, how does that person see those two circumstances where you've got Jesus who can share future things, and then a fortune teller who at times will share something that she might know, perhaps obviously from an ungodly source, not perhaps, but obviously from an ungodly source? How does the average human being respond to that? Like, are they going to sense something off? You know, that's my question, is more or less, if you think that people were following Jesus more or less for signs and wonders only, then they did also have people who did similar type of things sometimes, you know, false prophecy or accurate prophecy with ungodly sources. There were people who got similar results, not raising the dead, but certainly some other things through divination. How would you compare those two scenarios? The one where, you know, there's a woman who's fortune telling with divination versus Jesus, who's actually telling the woman at the well, this is your future. This is your past. I can tell you what you've done, and this person that you're with is not your husband. Like, how do you look at those two scenarios? Do you think that people were just excited about anything that was supernatural? Or do you think that they could sometimes tell a difference between this is supernatural from God versus this is supernatural and it's not from God?
We don't know. There's no way. And we're humans. And you just have to be lucky.
Or you have to have a relationship with God so that you can know. He will probably say, hey, that's not for me.
Because, okay, so this is why I say, if Jesus came again, we will kill him again, because we're doing the very same thing that killed Jesus.
I see what you're saying. You're saying the state of society is mentally so similar to the state of society when he came the first time. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
I understand now.
Yeah, because
we haven't grown much in some ways. There's so much of the similar parallel between the early beginnings and now that there's not enough people who know him properly, can decipher the things. There's not enough of that, and there's a risk. If this were his first time around, there could be a risk that someone would perceive him as rebellious and a threat to society. Yeah. And you're saying at this point that something like that could happen if it was his first time coming here.
Yeah, because to your answer in the very beginning, shall we date people that is not from church? Mm. Jesus will date people that is not from church.
Jesus didn't date anybody that he did not.
But was he hanging out with people from church? Or was he hanging out with people not from church?
I don't know. It looks like there's some evidence of both.
Yeah, but he was hanging out with the prostitutes, and like
And the tax collectors.
the tax collectors. And now put yourself in those years. How? So, like right now, you talk about prostitution. You talk, and it's on TV, and you see it on the songs. It's the songs that we like, that we sing to, that we dance to. So we know about the strip club. We go to the strip club to have some fun. So right now it's kind of okay. You know that maybe you have a friend, a girlfriend that is a dancer, a stripper. It's not a big thing. It's not a big deal. You talk to her. So it's kind of normal. On those days, it was the worst thing ever.
Mm.
They were even. So in those days, the worst thing that can happen to you was that society would kick you out. If you get kicked out of society, that's the worst thing ever.
I don't think anyone gets kicked out of church nowadays.
No, but exactly, that's what I'm saying.
It doesn't really happen. Like, back then, if you were unruly, disobedient, if you were rebellious against God's laws and things, you would get removed from church. You would not have a community anymore. You would be isolated by yourself.
Exactly.
Until you repented. Until you repented, then you come back.
So people that were like leprosy, they had that sickness, they kicked them out of the community. They sent them out to the caves. They could not come to the community. That was the worst thing ever. So prostitution and all this stuff was taking place in spaces out of the community, out of the city. You had to go. So now there's this guy coming, bringing all these people that has leprosy, that are prostitutes, that are thieves, that are the people that the community kicked out because that was the worst thing ever. And then he brings those people to the community. And then on top of that, he tells you to hang out with them. And on top of that, he cures them of their sickness. And on top of that, he says that he has the power of death and life. And he brings people from death. That's the thing you were asking. How can we know if this guy is God or is something coming from evil? That's what killed Jesus, because we're humans. We don't know. It's so hard to differentiate that. So, but the good thing is that everything has consequences. So if you follow a path that is not making you happy, that wasn't the right path. If you're having a lot of so you gotta learn the pain. If you have a lot of pain that makes your life intolerable, that's not the right way to go. If you go to the gym and have a lot of pain, but you can carry your child, then that's a good pain. If you deal with yourself and you improve yourself, that's painful. That's a lot of work. But after that, you can have a nice conversation with a friend, you can enjoy another human being, and you can have a great time, then that was a good pain. So you should have more of that pain, because that is going to bring you to a better situation. So how do we understand if something is godly or not? I think making the mistake of trying, and if we feel fear, if we see chaos, then get out of there.
That's not God.
Yeah, exactly.
This is true. This is true. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. It's getting a little bit late, but David, thank you for coming. Thank you so much.
It was fun.
Always. Y'all join me next time we go live with the Victory Life podcast. We had David on. David, my good friend. Hopefully you come again, and I don't know what we'll talk about next time. Maybe we'll do another unscripted, or maybe we will actually list out our topics, because we covered a lot today. But we covered a lot last time we talked as well, so it was actually pretty good. This time we didn't get into testimony, this and that. We didn't get into the debate between the pastor and the lawyer, but I think we still hit some of the same themes. I'm gonna have to get you next time on cohabitation. I want to get your thoughts next time on cohabitation, on prenups. I want to pick your brain, because on these topics I've evolved, and only people that have been watching my stream for a while, only those people who've known me for a couple years know my thoughts on those topics. They would have had to follow all of my different podcasts, but I evolved on some of those topics where, at one point I was and then after a while I was well, let me think about that again. I've evolved from my, BC days to now. There's a little bit of a difference there with some of that. And I'm going to pick your brain next time on some of that, FYI. So that's not really completely unscripted. Because we didn't get to that, but we got close, but I didn't get it. That's a whole nother topic. I know you haven't been married, but I think the single people are the ones who are thinking about the cohabitation, and the single people are the ones who are thinking about prenups. The married people, it's too late. They didn't sign one or whatever. It's too late. So whatever it is, they're going to deal with the outcome. So I want to get your thoughts on that, because I know you represent a lot of probably young people who are successful and are thinking about how do they take the steps in those directions, and then how do they ensure that their life is going to be good, even if decisions don't work out the way they hope that they would work out, since we can't control the other person. So I have not gotten to that. I don't know what you think about that, but I'm going to scratch the surface next time I have you on. We're going to talk about that for sure.
All right, yeah. That sounds fun.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. Join me next time when we go live with the Victory Life podcast. Until next time, everybody. Bye, everybody. Join me next time we go live with the Victory Life podcast. Thank you guys for joining. Bye, everybody. Thank you, YouTube. Bye, YouTube. Bye, Instagram. Bye, Facebook. Thank you for joining me, TikTok. Join me next time we go live with the Victory Life podcast. Thank you to my special guest, David, for joining us today. What an interesting conversation. My gosh, I've never had such a good time talking to somebody about life, salvation, grace, mistakes, just peeling things back like an onion, one topic at a time. But thank you guys for joining. Join me next time we go live with the Victory Life podcast. Bye, Instagram. Bye, Facebook. It's going to be an interesting summer, David. We're going to be going live a whole lot more in the summer. Join me next time we go live with the Victory Life podcast. Thank you guys for joining. Bye, everybody. Join me next time we go live with the Victory Life podcast. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for joining. Bye, everybody.